where do you want to start this morning?
Well, it's Championship Thursday.
It is.
It's a big day, you know. We start every show saying it's a big week, and it's still a big week.
It's still a big week.
We have volleyball in the 7th District Championship at 6 o'clock tonight at Hopkins County Central High School. They'll play Madisonville. And then at 7 o'clock over in Madisonville at North Hopkins High School, girls soccer is going to be playing Henderson County for the 2nd Region Championship. So lots of action. You might even be able to catch both of them if you're quick.
Yeah, and if everything aligns right, you get over there and you check out Hopkins Central, the volleyball action, then you just head on over to Madisonville North, just short drive down 41 or get back out on the I-69 and take off.
I think it's about 15 minutes between schools, so maybe you can pull that one off, at least get to see maybe the second half of the soccer game, depending on how the volleyball goes. But, you know, it's going to be a big game tonight. Caldwell County looking for its first 2nd Region Championship in soccer since 2007, and that was the end of a 3-year run back then. Caldwell County won 3 straight. Of course, the soccer alignment back then was a little different. There were only 2 districts in the region. It was basically the old 5th District in basketball, what I like to think of, Caldwell, Trigg.
Everybody loves the old 5th
Lyon
District.
County, Dawson Springs. And then you had the Hopkinsville District, which was Hoptown, Christian County, UHA, and Fort Campbell, and that was the entire region. You didn't have to worry about Madisonville or Henderson.
Kind of made sense back then,
back in those days. But then at some point, the KHSAA decided that all the regions or all the sports should have about the same regions and the same districts, so they tried to realign all the sports about the same way that basketball is aligned, so that's where we end up today. And of course, you bring Madisonville into the picture, and they've typically had strong soccer programs. And, of course, Henderson is one of the biggest schools in the state and the biggest school in the region. So Henderson's always going to be really tough. But Caldwell County, you know, if they can go over there and maybe get an early goal tonight, maybe the Lady Tigers can pull off an upset. But I think Henderson County is probably a pretty good favorite, especially they beat the Lady Tigers 5-0 during the regular season. Henderson doesn't give up many goals at all. They've allowed 28 goals in 22 minutes. I don't remember a lot of easy goals. You know, usually over the course of the season you see some soft goals given up. I don't remember the Lady Tigers doing that, at least not much lately. Maybe when they had that string where they were just playing a killer schedule there for a couple of weeks. But, you know, they have 2 shutouts in the regional tournament. I think tonight's game for Caldwell County to win has to play out that way a little bit. It has to be 1-0 or 2-1.
Low-scoring affair, yeah.
Yeah, if it gets into a game where there are 3, 4, 5 goals scored, Henderson County is probably too good and is going to get the majority of those.
Right. And of course, our keeper is one of the best around in the region. So, you know, we've got that going for us. So we've got a great defensive line. It's going to be great. We encourage everybody to go over and make that trip if you can. If not, of course, there was a little bit of a confusion on time earlier, but we don't have that confusion now.
It's 7 o'clock. I think we have confirmed that from a couple of sources now, and I'm not sure how that happened last night, but, you know, one school thought it was at 6. The other school thought it was at 7. Madisonville's hosting it. They said 7, so I guess we're good for 7 o'clock.
Yeah, and then we'll be on the air shortly before that to bring you the excitement, the action of the 2nd Region Championship tonight from Madisonville North. So, and online.
And it's been a great season for the Lady Tigers, 14-9-1, and they did bump the schedule up a little bit this year, so it was a little tougher. So that's a really good record against that schedule. When they announced the all-region teams last night, Kelsey Adams was first team. The second team had 3 Lady Tigers. Mackenzie Smiley, Laney Fletcher, and Drew Thomas were all on there.
That's right.
And you could probably throw out a couple of more names of people that maybe deserve to be on the all-region team that didn't get it because, I mean, it's the all-region team. It's when you look at 4, that's pretty impressive.
That is pretty impressive. But, yeah, there's no doubt, you know, some of our senior leadership on the team, you know, you could throw out probably out some more names. And But kudos to those ladies that made it, and of course the entire effort of this Lady Tiger soccer team this year, and our coaching staff is just fantastic. So best of luck to them.
Yeah, you just don't see many high school teams that have a successful season that don't have strong senior leadership. I think it's just part of high school sports. If you don't have that strong class there, now every now and then you'll get a strong group of juniors or something who kind of take on that role. But usually when you see a successful high school team, there's good senior leadership because coaches can kind of point you in the right direction, but there has to be somebody on the team holding everyone accountable, and that's what you see with the good teams.
No doubt about it. And I think all our cast of seniors on this Lady Tiger team possess great leadership skills for those underclassmen below them, and it just shows.
But a big game tonight, 7 o'clock in Madisonville. Tonight's winner will host the 4th region champion in the semi-state game. That's basically the round of 16 at state, so it's kind of like making the state tournament.
Right.
That game is actually set for Tuesday, October 24th. The 4th region final is between Bowling Green and Greenwood. The only issue Caldwell County might have is if they get there, I'm not sure that the Butler Stadium field meets the specs for that. So I don't know if, trying to look ahead a little bit, maybe past this game, if Caldwell were to win, I don't know what they would have to do, if they'd have to find another field to play that game or play, obviously a neutral site someplace or what. But I know the KHSAA in recent years has gotten more picky about where they play some of these postseason games, and sometimes if you don't pass the parking and the light, and your field has to be a certain size, the lighting has to be just right, then you can't host.
And I've noticed, the field that we're on at Madisonville North, it's wider than what we're used to.
Is.
And I think sometimes the ladies over there, they don't, they're so used to, it's almost like they have internal radar of where they are, and they don't realize that they've got more field that they could be using over there.
Well, and we see that sometimes when teams come here. The field is a little more narrow. Well, they're used to playing that ball out wide, and sometimes here they send it out of bounds, and it really comes into play on corner kicks here because teams aren't familiar. They think they have that long corner kick, and it's really just a short punch for a lot of players, and you'll see the ball go flying way over the net. It takes them a while to adjust to it.
And I tell you what else I've noticed in our regional play too, especially these later games after the sun sets with these cool temperatures. Boy, there's a buildup of dew on everything.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it's affecting play just a little bit when the ball gets real slick. We saw a couple kicks last night from a sure-footed Mackenzie Smiley most of the time from the corner over there, and I really think several of those balls kind of went wide behind the goal to get those kicks into position for somebody to maybe score, and they just kind of veered off. But I think it had a lot to do with the wetness of the ball, don't you?
Yeah, a couple of things. The field definitely gets wet, gets some moisture on it, and you can even see the fog roll in a lot of times. But also that corner that she was kicking on from the side that the teams were on, there's a little hill there. It really slopes down.
Okay.
Well, if you're taking that corner kick, you almost have to run uphill to take it, and I think that may throw the timing off a little bit.
It might, but I know those were the two sides over there when you had those corner kicks.
Yeah.
Where she struggled just a little bit to get that ball in bounds.
Yeah, and she's trying to bend it back anyway. It kind of starts on that
kind of give it a little angle and curve. Yeah, and that's a hard thing to do. But I mean, she's definitely sure-footed.
But from the other end, she pulled that off, and Taylor Freeman headed in a goal for the first goal of the game. So.
That's right.
So it looks pretty when it works.
Boy, it does. And our girls are pretty skilled to get that done as well. So, man, it's going to be a great atmosphere tonight. It's going to be, anytime that you're playing for a championship, it's great. So we encourage everybody, if you can make that trip over there and support these ladies, they've really had a fantastic year. We want you to do that.
And volleyball, the same thing, 24-9.
Yes.
But Madisonville has been a worthy opponent this year. Caldwell County has beaten them twice, but it was 3-2 over there in a very close match. It was 3-1 here. Madisonville took the first set that night, so it's at Hopkins Central, so that's as neutral as you could get in the 7th District. Both teams 24-9. Caldwell County going for its 11th straight district volleyball championship. And I think that goes back through a couple of districts. It goes back, I think, through the 5th and the 6th. And I can't even remember how they were aligned.
Yeah.
The volleyball alignment has changed a couple of times during the years, but the one constant has been Caldwell County has won those districts every year.
Yes, and like Todd said earlier, if you can, hit both of them because they're, like I said, 15 minutes apart. You can cheer on our volleyball Lady Tigers, and then, of course, head over to the championship game.
Well, and the Lady Tiger volleyball team just has the one game in the district tournament. Like the soccer team, they got that number 1 seed.
And they're heading on to the region.
Yeah, so
and that's going to be over in Trigg County
next week. Volleyball will be at Trigg County. So, we've spent this week going to Madisonville and Hopkinsville, and we'll spend most of next week going to Trigg County.
Yeah, we're taking the 139 South. So, that's great, and best of luck to our ladies tonight. Looking
ahead, Caldwell County is one of the favorites in the 2nd region volleyball tournament. I think you'd probably have to put Henderson County number 1, but Caldwell County is right on their heels, at number 2, and Madisonville has come a long way this season. They've got a really good team. It's going to be a battle tonight, and going into that, winning that 3-1, and that's how Henderson got to the soccer finals tonight. But again, just a lot going on. Those 2 championship games tonight. It's going to be big, and the blue and gold has a chance to really pull off a special night with a couple of wins.
They really do, and again, kudos to our coaching staff and getting our athletes in position for these. The athletes they've worked hard, and it's paying off, and it's fun. We talk about these teams. That Trigg County team on the soccer, I think Coach Harper, that they were a much improved team.
Oh, absolutely.
From when we faced earlier in the year. So, it's nice to see the way these teams progress, and that's what you want.
Yeah, theoretically, that's how it's supposed to work. You should be a lot better off in the postseason than you were back that first or second week of the season. Look at the Caldwell County football team. It's improved, I think, every week. I think you've seen the volleyball team get better and better. You've seen the soccer team get better and better. And going back to that defense, though, on the soccer field, I've always heard that if the other team doesn't score, you can't lose. So if you can go out and play good defense, you give yourself a chance every time.
Never heard that one, Todd, but you're exactly right. There's no doubt about it. And I think you see, defense wins championships. You see it in baseball, you see it in soccer, you see it in football. And just look at these baseball playoffs that have been on. Man, good pitching and defense. It's what it's all about. Most of these have been low scoring, affairs, and so it's like that at most every level, in most every sport.
But I think those are going to be 2 fun games tonight. I think that volleyball game is going to be a lot of fun to watch. Again, Madisonville has been beaten by Caldwell County for years running now, and that gets old because Caldwell County has been on the other end of that before, in different sports. So nobody likes to have that long losing streak. So Madisonville is really going to be fired up. I think Caldwell County will have to weather that storm a little bit early on. Caldwell County probably overall maybe the better team. They're certainly ranked higher. They've beaten Madisonville twice. The thing about Caldwell County, just so solid. They don't really make a lot of mistakes and beat themselves, and that's the thing. I mean, you just go out and play, and you have to make those key plays to win a close game.
Yeah, and we've got, even though the volleyball team only has 2 seniors, it's great senior leadership there as well, and some of these underclassmen have stepped up in strong roles on our volleyball team too. And again, I think you go back, Coach Courtner, Coach Griggs, I was talking to Coach Courtner the other day, and he says, Coach Griggs has kind of brought kind of a balance to what he does, and so with both of them working the way they do, and Coach Griggs, collectively getting these girls back if they tend to emotions run high or whatever, it tends to work really well, and I think they've done a great job.
Yeah, they'll have a good game plan. You can count on that.
No doubt.
So. It's Caldwell and Madisonville for the 7th District Championship. That's at 6 o'clock at Hopkins Central. Then after that at 7 o'clock at Madisonville, it's Caldwell County Girls and Henderson County for the 2nd Region Soccer Championship.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, what a night.
Championship Thursday. It's a big night.
It is. We talk about that. But, to talk about our teams in a championship, that's just is what it means.
Well, that's what you play for. That's why you do all the hard work in the off season, and you show up for practice every day when maybe there would be something else you'd rather do, and you're tired, but you show up for practice and go through it. And this is why. These are the games. If you're a ball player, these are the games you want to play.
You live for, yeah. Why not? So congratulations and good luck, ladies, tonight.
Yeah, it should be fun.
It should be fun. What else, man?
Well, we've maybe got a little something different lined up for today's show that we can get into.
You want to take a break and come back?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. We're going to take a break here at 9:21. The time seems to always get away from us.
That's quick.
But we have a lot of good things to talk about. So you're listening to the Sideline Report, brought to you by the Times leader here on your hometown radio station, WPKY, the Tiger, Todd Griffin, in the studio. And we'll be back after these messages.
Have you been a victim of debit or credit card fraud? Farmers Bank and Trust can help lessen your risk of getting taken advantage of. As our customer, you have exclusive access to a security feature in our app that will allow you to turn your debit card off while you're not using it, then turn it on instantly when you need to use it. Keep your information safe. Log into our free app to use this feature, increasing the security of your information right now. Not a Farmers Bank customer? Come down. Let us set up your account and start protecting you from potential fraud opportunities. This is not a guarantee that your information will not be compromised. This is an increased security measure. Farmers Bank and Trust, member FDIC.
Hello, this is Keisha Fulcher, CEO for Community Medical Clinic, located at 310 Hawthorne Street in Princeton. Community Medical Clinic's goal is to provide access to excellent health care services that are both convenient and affordable. Community Medical Clinic is taking new patients every day, and walk-ins are welcome. The clinic is open Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. to serve you and your family members of all ages. Patients are welcome with all insurances or with no insurance. Not able to come into the Princeton location? Then we have two other clinics. Our new downtown location in Hopkinsville at 1102 South Virginia Street and Fort Campbell Boulevard in Oak Grove. Community Medical Clinic, providing health care services at your convenience at no extra cost.
Okay, we're back on the Sideline Report at 9:23. And Todd, when we kind of got together and talked about doing this, we wanted to do something a little different, and we said we'd have different. You know, we've had Chris George call in, and we've talked about different things. So I'll let you take it from here and talk about kind of some of the things we've been working out.
Well, I think growing up, we all watched ball games and listened to ball games, and that's kind of how we got involved in sports. Some of my earliest memories are watching Kentucky basketball games on TV when I couldn't have been 3 or 4 years old. And, you know, you hear a lot of those famous calls, and they kind of get ingrained. And I can remember, you know, it's the baseball playoffs, Major League Baseball, one of the best times of the year if you're a sports fan. Yeah. And I just remember the NBC Game of the Week when it used to come on, and that was back before every game was on TV. You know, you would wait all week to get that one game Saturday afternoon. And, of course, one of the intros was always one of the most famous calls of all time, you know, from Russ Hodges. Maybe not everybody's going to remember that, but
it's 1951.
It was 1951, and I've heard this so many times. One of my favorite calls ever. And the thing I love about it is it's just so spontaneous. You know, I think a lot of times announcers these days try to prepare for that big moment and have, you know, the speech made and you know,
better right off the cuff.
Yeah, let's just play this one and listen to it, and then we'll talk about it some more because it's just a really good call.
Okay, yeah, it is, and hopefully this computer will cooperate. So here we go. We'll see if we can't get it.
Not taking any chances. Blocks him without too big of a lead in second, but he'll be running like the wind if Thompson hits one.
The Giants obviously won the pennant by beating the Dodgers of Brooklyn that day, and like I said, they used to play that on NBC Sports when the Game of the Week was coming on. So it's one of my favorite calls.
Yeah, that is one of my favorites, and you know you can check out some of these on YouTube and you get to see the video with it, but it's so awesome because you get to see, you know, it is spontaneous and you get to see his at bat, and I mean everybody's out to greet him, and you know I remember him kind of jumping down on home plate, you know. That was a big shot though.
It was.
I mean,
heard around the world.
It was heard around the world. Not since Lexington and Concord.
Yeah. Thankfully, someone had the good sense to archive that, because how many things through the years have been missed because in 1951 nobody thought to save anything like that. So it's fantastic that that's still out there.
No doubt about it.
But I know growing up, my favorite announcers, Jack Buck and K. Wood Ledford, they just don't get any better than that. And maybe it's because you have those special memories growing up and you listen to those guys, but I thought Jack Buck was the best baseball play-by-play guy I've ever heard.
Yeah, no doubt.
And, of course, everyone remembers K. Wood Ledford calling UK games. To me, he was the best. And everyone remembers him from basketball, but I remember K. Wood, I always thought was a better football play-by-play guy.
Did you really?
It's a shame that he didn't have some better football teams to call play-by-play for, but yeah, he was just phenomenal. He was just, and you could listen to K. Wood all day. He was
he was smooth as silk.
He was the perfect guy for Kentucky, and just And then Jack Buck, so many Cardinals games. I mean, 162 games a year. Again, not every game was on TV back then, so if you wanted to keep up, you had to turn on the radio, and he was there.
I know Mike Shannon had a few buds up there. Do you think Jack Buck had a few buds?
I'm sure.
I mean, that's what I kind of – I mean, I love listening to Cardinal games in the summertime, but you know Harry Carey did for the Cubs. But you know, I love when they'd say, now's the – you know, and it just – you know, on a summer night and those guys just doing what they love, making those great calls and just hanging out. I mean, it's great, man. That ball game experience, 162 days. Why isn't this one playing here? I don't have audio. Let me see here, Todd. Let's talk through it. Huh. I've got it on. It's the same as we did Bobby Thompson. I don't know what we're doing here. It's not muted. Let me try it again. But anyway, let's talk about this because it's one of the best calls, I think, that Jack had done. It's probably one of the most famous calls. And
Jack had several of those, even not with just the Cardinals, but he did a lot of games on national TV, national radio. I think a lot of people probably remember the Kirk Gibson call.
That Vin Scully did.
Yeah, it was Vin Scully, and one of them was on radio, one of them was on TV, and Jack Buck had the "I don't believe what I just saw" exclamation after Gibson limped up to the plate and hit a home run to win a World Series game for the Dodgers.
That's right. I don't know why this one didn't play. I'm sitting here watching it, Todd, and it's not playing. Let's go to that other one first. Let's go to the other one and see. I don't know why this one is not playing. I mean, it's not muted, just not going out over the air, and I can't figure it out. Let's go to the other one that you had brought in here and had talked about, and see if we can't get this one to fly. I don't know what's wrong with that one. Okay, let's see.
So this is the K-Wood. Yeah, all right.
Okay. See, I'm having the same issues with it. I don't know. That's so funny. Let's take another break and we'll come back.
Okay, that'll work.
And then we'll come back and see if we can't get these going. I don't know why in the world the audio's not going out, so I've done the same thing I did on Bobby Thompson. So we'll take a break at 9:30. We want to rip these great calls on here for you. We'll take a break and come back, and maybe I can get this straightened out. You're listening to the Sideline Report on WPKY.
Hey, honey, you know what would make me so happy
Mobile
right
Deposit
now?
is here.
Well,
This is
that
Mona
and
Van Hooser with Mobile Deposit is here. This is Mona Van Hooser with First Southern National Bank, and our new mobile app is loaded with extra features, including mobile deposit. Now you can use your smartphone's camera to deposit checks on the go. Just endorse, point, click, and send. Download our new mobile app and try it today. First Southern National Bank. Member FDIC.
Hey, honey, you know what would make me so happy right now?
A movie night?
Well, that and...
A candlelit dinner?
Actually, I was thinking we could...
Go for a walk in...
McDonald's! Babe, listen. I want McDonald's. And some fries.
You're the perfect human.
Get more of what matters at McDonald's. Try your favorites on the everyday value menu, like the McDouble Burger for $1.39 or the McChicken Sandwich for $1.19. A la carte only at participating restaurants. Cannot be combined with combo meal.
Okay, Todd, we're back here, and just some of these on the levels off where we're getting them playing. The source is not as loud, so I believe I've got it worked out. I'm just going to have to crank it up. So let's go with the Jack Buck.
All right, good.
Here we go. Yep, I heard K Woods. I can't hear that one. Let's go with K Wood. Dang it.
Technology.
Well, it's weird how the Bobby Thompson played and the K Wood did, and see if we
Let
get
me say, it's been 20
K-Wood.
years of the greatest part of my life. Spent here with you, and I certainly appreciated your friendship and your camaraderie.
Thank you, Ralph. That's very kind, and this has to be one of the outstanding games in NCAA tournament history. And had Kentucky won it, if they'd have been able to hold on, I think it would have been the greatest Kentucky victory in all those years, even though it was not for a championship, but it was still such a great, great effort. And with tonight's loss to the Duke Blue Devils, the Kentucky basketball season does come to an end, and so does my career as the Kentucky announcer. And after this long 39-year run, it's been a marvelous season for the Wildcats. I could say the same thing about all these fun-filled years I've spent at this microphone. There are just so many people to thank that I really don't know where to start. Perhaps the best place would be to thank all the players over the years. and all the coaches over the years that have made this program really something special. And a really special thanks to this team. They've brought this basketball program back from the dead. And certainly to Rick Pitino, who's not only brought success back to Kentucky, but he's just made it such great fun. There's no one I'll miss more than Rick. He's really something special. Thanks to the university, they've been very supportive. Thanks to my partner, Jim Host, for his friendship and counsel and good advice. A big thank you to the two fellows who sit on each side of me tonight. Ralph Hacker has been alongside for the past 20 years, not only a colleague, but a good friend. Ralph will move into this chair next year, and I know he will do well. Tom Devine has been our technical director for the past 12 years. Tom is the best at what he does and also a great friend, and this is also his final UK broadcast. But most of all, my heartfelt thanks to you for your support, your loyalty, your friendship over these 39 years. Perhaps Adolph Rupp said it best, and I'd like to borrow his words for my goodbye that he used in his goodbye speech, and the words are these. For those of you who have gone down the glory road with me, my eternal thanks. From Philadelphia, this is Kaywood Ledford saying goodbye.
Yeah, that's a true professional there, Todd.
Well, I just really wanted to hear Kaywood Ledford again, so that's why we played that. But and the guy was the best, and that was his last call. I think I was on the floor in the fetal position at that point after Kentucky had just lost to Duke in the Spectrum in Philadelphia in the 1991 East Region Final.
Yeah.
On a last-second shot by somebody who I think pushed off, traveled. He should have been called for a technical.
Yeah,
that was a Christian Leitner shot.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
I'm not even sure the ball went in at this point. I think Kentucky won that game.
It was unbelievable to watch, and of course, I find it ironic who he mentions there.
Oh, the Rick Pitino mention,
yeah, and how my grandmother always told me the bigger they are, the harder they fall. And Rick was larger than life and became larger than life. He was it at Kentucky back then. He resurrected our program.
I was going to say he essentially resurrected that program. It got put on probation, and the NCAA stopped just short of the death penalty with that program.
Exactly.
The whole point was to hurt Kentucky basketball for 4 or 5 years there. Rick Pitino came in, and that first season I think went 14-14. They weren't on TV or anything, but that was a big deal. As a matter of fact, there were people who said the NCAA didn't punish Kentucky enough because he was able to go 14-14 with that team.
Yeah.
And we talked earlier when we talked about the Rick Pitino thing that had he stayed at Kentucky, he had a dynasty built. Where was that going to go? It's very possible if he had stayed that Kentucky would have won another 2, 3, 4 national championships through the years. They might be right there with UCLA right now, maybe past them. Of course, right. I know Pitino was from up north, and he wanted to go back to Boston, and I can certainly understand the allure of the Celtics for someone like that. And Rick Pitino certainly had success at Louisville, but you just wonder if he would have stayed at Kentucky because he had everything built. They went to the championship game 3 years in a row there, won it twice. One of them was with Tubby Smith,
right.
But it was basically the foundation that Rick Pitino had laid.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, if you go back and he was going, they'd probably have the statues already built in Lexington for Rick Pitino if he would have remained with the Wildcats.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And obviously, Kay Wood and Rick had an incredible relationship.
Oh yeah, and you go back to Mr. Wildcat, Bill Kitely, and all those guys. Yeah. I mean, it was a fantastic time, and Rick was getting players back then that John Calipari is getting now.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, the Rick Pitino that was at Louisville was probably a better X's and O's basketball coach than he was when he was at Kentucky.
Yeah.
He was that first big recruiter guy that was getting all the big players. And getting Jamal Mashburn, I think, set the stage for everything that came after that because we remember the Unforgettables, and that's what that clip was from.
Yeah.
You know, they made it all the way to the East Region Finals, and Duke was supposed to be the heavy underdog, and Sean Woods hit that runner in the lane, and we all thought, hey, Kentucky's going to pull this off and go to the Final Four, and then Christian Leitner broke our hearts with that last-second shot that, CBS and ESPN play over and over.
Yeah, no, I think they'll be playing that 20 years from now.
Oh, yeah. But that was a big game, and I think, like Kay Wood said, if Kentucky had won that might have been the biggest win in Kentucky basketball history. And think of what that means for a program with all those national titles.
Yeah.
That's crazy, but
one shot.
It was a heck of a game. Some people still say the best college basketball game ever.
Played, yeah, it is. And I mean, I remember watching it live myself, and I think most everybody was just stunned. You know, you had that across the court throw, that turn, that dribble, and then up, and and people all in his face, and there it went.
And you still see, I think John Pelfrey and Feldhaus were both on him, and Pitino had told them not to foul. So they almost take a step back as he's catching the ball. You're almost like, no. And even Pitino said later that he wished he'd have put somebody on the guy throwing the ball in to make that pass a little more difficult.
Because he had a clear shot.
Again, I think going back, Rick wasn't the X's and O's coach then that he became. Given the guy's due, he was, I think, a better basketball coach when he was at Louisville. At this point, though, it might be best if Rick just took his millions and went off into the sunset. And
it might be that time.
Yeah.
It might be that time. Well, you've got some more calls here, a couple of good ones. You want to see if we can get them to roll? I hate that we don't have the Jack Buck, because that one's a classic. I don't know why that one. I can't get enough audio on it. So hopefully these will work out.
We'll just tell everybody to go crazy, folks. Go crazy.
There you go. That's the one it is. It's Ozzy. Ozzy hit the.
Well, I watched that about 50 times the other night when I was looking these up. So I've got my fix, and it's on YouTube. Just go search for it, and
go check it out.
If you're a Cardinals fan, especially, you can't get enough of that one. But to me, that was just kind of a trip down memory lane with Jack Buck and Kay Wood again.
No doubt.
Nobody will ever be as good as those two guys, and maybe it's not fair to compare everybody. If there is one contemporary guy that I think is that type of announcer, it'd be Al Michaels.
Yes.
And, he's got the famous call. I mean, I don't think I go a week without shouting at somebody, "Do you believe in miracles?" at the most inappropriate times. But
no, and that's another one of those spontaneous things.
Again, yes.
That was pulled off. And I think we'll set this one up here. But we, of course, go back to the height of the Cold War. It's a time when the Russians were basically have professional players playing against our
in the
amateurs
Olympics. Yeah.
In our Olympics. So let's listen to this, because it is special, and hopefully this one will do. I have not tested this before, but we will try to.
And I think there's a little bit of a setup on the video before you get to Al Michaels' call, but we can listen to all that.
Yeah, why not? It's just let's listen to it.
But there is an Olympic event that stands above all the others. It took place in Lake Placid at the 1980 Winter Olympics. The United States was facing the Soviet Union in a critical game in their bid for the gold medal. The heavily favored Soviet team had won 5 straight games, while the underdog United States team had also gone through the competition without a loss. Now in the final period, the teams are tied at 3 goals apiece. The United States must now hold on until the final buzzer.
Petrov with it. The Americans on top, 4-3. Long shot. Craig able to get a piece of it to sweep it away. 28 seconds. The crowd going insane. Karlamov shooting it into the American end again. Morrow is back there. Now Johnson, 19 seconds. Johnson over to Ramsey. Ilya Letonov gets checked by Ramsey. McClanahan is there. The puck is still loose. 11 seconds. You've got 10 seconds. The countdown going on right now. Morrow up to Silk. 5 seconds left in the game. Do you believe in miracles? Yes! Unbelievable.
Yeah, I remember watching that one live too, Todd.
And that was actually the semifinals that year.
That's right. We had to go on and play Finland, didn't we?
I think so,
for
in the
gold
championship,
medal.
yeah. So that was a big call, and obviously a younger Al Michaels there. But to me, he's just one guy that you don't get the scripted finish. I mean, it's he's shooting off the cuff, and to me, those spontaneous calls are the best. Another good announcer, I like Jim Nantz on CBS, but the guy kills me when he has these prepared statements for the end of the game. Just let it go.
And he does.
He does.
You can tell he does.
He's worked on his championship call for weeks, and it's just, be in the moment.
I mean, he's smooth. There's no doubt about it. And I love him on golf, and I like him
Oh,
on
yeah.
football. But and golf's not one of those. I mean, you might when there's a great putt or something there at the end, a championship putt, but. Nance is, and I got to say, Nance is one of my favorites because I think he does such a great job. He's great. He interviews are great, but his calls are just so smooth, and you can tell he studies, but he does have those prepared remarks sometimes.
But I do like Al Michaels. I think he's the best going today, and one of my most underappreciated announced teams ever was on Monday Night Baseball. I'm not sure if you remember these on ABC back in the day.
Remember it, yeah.
They had a booth that had Al Michaels, Howard Cosell, and Bob Uecker. And why that never stuck, I don't know. But that was hilarious.
That was hilarious. Now, that wasn't my favorite Monday Night Football lineup. I'm kind of the old Dandy Don Meredith, Howard Cosell.
Well, this was Monday Night Baseball.
Oh, you're talking about Monday Night Baseball. That's right. Yeah, I was talking about football. Yeah, and I forgot about that. Yeah, Bob Uecker. Yeah, how come? Did you know the history? What happened there? Do you know what happened?
I think Howard Cosell was difficult to work with.
I know. I'm sure that's the case.
And Bob Uecker was like the ultimate comedian on the baseball broadcast. And
Howard wanted a little bit more serious, probably, didn't he?
Probably, and I don't think actually. Al Michaels wrote a book, and there's an excerpt available on SportsIllustrated.com where he talks about Howard Cosell a lot and how on baseball broadcast Howard would always call for bunts in situations where nobody would ever bunt. And even when Jim Palmer was the other guy in the booth, Al and whoever was in there would try to cover for Howard, but Howard Cosell was Howard Cosell, and he just that's the way it was. And but they would try to cover for him a little bit, and I think it made some difficult situations in the booth to try to, Howard Cosell, I loved him on Monday Night Football, but I think everybody thinks, he had this massive ego, and he wasn't going to let things go, and that made for a tough three-man crew.
And probably in those baseball situations, again, where he didn't know quite what the strategy might be, that probably would cause some tense moments.
I think Howard Cosell one night, Al Michaels said he used the word truculent.
Yeah,
and he asked Uecker if he knew what truculent meant.
Yeah.
And of course, Uecker, being the guy he is, said, "I know exactly. If you had a truck and you let me borrow it, it would be a truck you lent."
I love it, and it's so funny because you look in some of these, in Jerry Maguire when Michaels is up there with Aikman. I don't know who he's making the call with during the game. It's Monday Night Football. It's like Joe Gifford up there when. He says he uses the truculent term up there, and it's kind of stuck around just a little bit, I think, and I think that's kind of funny.
And we actually do have a Howard Cosell call, and it's from boxing.
Let me back this up here. And this is a classic, and you got to love Howard Cosell. And hopefully this one will play too. I'm gonna.
It just seems like the old guys each of them had a style. I think the guys today try to be more of an entertainer or something, or they just don't have that uniqueness to them that some of the old guys had. When you turned on Monday Night Football and heard Howard Cosell, he didn't have to say this is Howard Cosell.
You knew it.
You knew right away who it was.
Yeah, he was unique. Well, let's hear this call. Hopefully this one will go. Again, we're just going on the fly here with some of these, but this is a classic right here.
Angie Dundee, Ali's trainer, right next to me is saying it. You may hear him. Down goes Frazier! Down goes Frazier! Down goes Frazier! The heavyweight champion is taking the mandatory 8 count, and Foreman is as poised as can be in a neutral corner. He is Angie Dundee.
There we go. And that, of course, it automatically repeats here, but of course that was George Foreman knocking down, I think, then heavyweight champ Joe Frazier. And it's kind of unique because those were back in the days when Howard Cosell, he was a fantastic boxing announcer as well. And he and Muhammad Ali, I think, had a very special relationship. I mean, I think there have been documentaries made on that. But
and he always got the big Ali interviews.
Got the big fights, yeah. And like I said, he and Ali had a special kind of relationship. I know at one time, he'd go, Howard Cosell, he'd be doing all this, and then I'm gonna bust him. I'll do it. But they really became good friends, I think, and had a special relationship. So yeah, that's a fantastic call right there.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites.
Mine too.
You just think back to the NFL, and again, the guys seem to have a uniqueness. Of course, again, another underrated tandem was I love Dick Enberg and Merlin Olsen calling football games on Sunday afternoon. Of course, Merlin Olsen, famous Los Angeles Ram,
That's
and of course
right.
Dick Enberg could call anything. He was like NBC's Mr. Go-To guy
He's
for a
pretty
while.
darn good, too.
He was, yes. Do you remember Charlie Joyner and Len Dawson?
Oh, yeah.
Again, just
Yeah.
the voice. You listen to Charlie Joyner, you knew who that
Knew
was.
who that was.
Pat Summerall and John Madden.
Oh my goodness gracious! I mean, grew up with CBS football, and of course, I love the old NFL Today. Remember that with Irv Cross,
Oh, yeah.
and Brent Musburger, and we had Jane Kennedy, and then of course Phyllis George was on there.
Absolutely,
some too.
yeah.
And that was a great show. Irv Cross,
the Brent
Jimmy the
Musburger. You are looking live.
Yeah.
That's how he started everything.
Yeah.
You are looking live.
Yeah, so I mean, good stuff, man.
And I can't remember which other clips we had, but
We've got the we've got the football play with the band on the field.
Oh,
I
yeah,
won't give away who it is.
oh yeah,
but,
we've got, I can't remember the guy's name who did that. I think it's on there someplace. I can never remember his name, but it's actually, this may be one of my favorite plays ever in sports, and it has nothing to do with any of my favorite teams.
no, but he goes wacko at the end.
Oh, it's awesome. And the play is incredible. Again, this might be my favorite play in the history of sports.
And you need to go watch this one.
Right.
Yeah,
But
if
it's fun
you
to
can do
listen
it.
to as
It's
well.
fun to listen to as well. It's only about 56 seconds. This is California versus Stanford, and it's called The Play. So let's listen to this one. Hopefully we can get the play to play.
Probably try to squib it, and he does. Ball comes loose, and the Bears have to get out of bounds. Rodgers along the sideline, another one. They're still in deep trouble at midfield. They tried to do a couple of... The ball is still loose as they get it to Rodgers. They give it back now to the 30. They're down to the 20. Oh, the band is out on the field. He's going to go into the end zone. He's going into the end zone. Will it count? The Bears have scored, but the bands are out on the field. There were flags all over the place. Wait and see what happens. We don't know who won the game. Everybody's milling around on the field. The Bears! The Bears have won! The Bears have won! Oh, my God! The most amazing, sensational, dramatic, heart-rending, exciting, thrilling finish in the history of college football. California has won the big game.
Yeah, that
I love that. That play is awesome.
Yeah, that's almost like the Hindenburg call.
You know, it's like 6 laterals or something like that, and then the band's on the field, and the guy runs through the band and creams the guy in the end zone.
The saxophone player, I don't know if he ever
poor
recovered
guy,
from that.
yeah.
I mean, he got creamed.
But he's famous for that play.
No doubt about it. Yeah, that was California and Stanford. It's called The Play. It's famous.
Like 1982?
Something like that, yeah. We were wee lads in high school, or getting ready to be in high school.
I think Stanford had actually kicked a field goal with just, seconds to go in the game to take the lead. And then Cal came up on the kickoff with the lateral. And you see every team try to do that now, but they actually pulled it off.
They did. And you see that, again, from time to time in a desperation aspect, but they pulled it off. It was chaotic. And, again, that band, when you go back and look at this thing, is right
it's
there
crazy.
on the
Yeah.
field. And you don't know what's going on. And he said, you heard him say flags everywhere. And I don't know how they sorted through that. I mean, at this day and age, well, I'm amazed. You saw that? Did you watch any of the? Did you watch any of the Cubs Dodgers last night?
A little bit of it.
Well, we had that
the instant replay at the end. Yeah.
Well, you had the call there where Madden got thrown out of the game for the Cubs because the batter said that he had tipped it, and it was a foul tip, and obviously it wasn't.
Right.
I don't think it was. And, of course, hit the ground, and, of course, the batter kind of played like he did, with some good acting there. And we saw, and it's getting kind of bizarre. I think the game was better off when, that was it,
Well,
and they reversed that call.
I like instant replay in sports from the standpoint that you can fix an obvious error.
An obvious error, that's right.
To me, I don't like it when they take 3 minutes to look at every call and look at 30 different angles of it and stop it and freeze it and blow it up. To me, I think replay officials should get like 3 looks at it. Look at 2 different versions. If you want to look at one again, fine. Take about 15 seconds. If you can't tell that the call that's obviously wrong at that point, let it go. Because they make a lot of assumptions off of video, and I know, especially in football, they talk about guys' knees being down or their elbow being down. Well, if you're taking a high shot from the end zone and you're looking down on the field, it looks like the guy's knee hits the ground, before it actually hits the ground, just
Right.
from the viewpoint. So I think a lot of times they overturn calls that, to me, are maybe, somebody's making an assumption instead of it's supposed to be undisputable
Yeah, well,
video evidence, but I don't think that's always
I
the
really
case.
think last night was ridiculous because I don't think he foul tipped it. I think the call was probably correctly made, and then they have a huddle. A guy from the third base line makes the call, and then the home plate guy overturns it, and then they throw out the manager. I mean, come on. If there's poetic justice, I mean, Wade Davis came back. Now I'm not pulling for the Cubs.
Right.
Wade Davis is from my old hometown, though. He's from Lake Wales, Florida, by the way.
I think that would make you a TBS announcer if you were pulling for the Cubs.
Yeah, it might be, but you know what I'm saying. I think sometimes, like you said, we get bogged down. I mean, definitely critical moments when you need an obvious aspect of it. Yes.
Well, if an official is blocked out on a call and somebody is obviously out of bounds or obviously in bounds, and you can't see that, you can go back and fix it. But to sit there and just watch replay after replay and slow it down and freeze frame and blow it up, that's asking a little too much, I think. And the Cal-Stanford game, I don't know what the replay guy would have done there.
Well,
Probably would have said he needed to get something out of his car, and we'd never have seen him again.
And my point with that too was, I mean, you had people in the end zone. I mean, when is there interference? When is there, because I think some of those guys for Stanford probably gave up. I mean, the people
well, they couldn't get through the band. The band was throwing a block.
That's exactly right. So, I mean, and to let that stand is, I don't think it would have happened this day and age. I don't know.
It'd been an interesting call, but. Yeah. Those things are fun to look at. Maybe we can get a couple of more to play at some point in the future. But, we almost had an old gathering of WPKY employees here earlier when Twyman Boren stopped by. And it was like the old days. And
it was.
Of course.
Let's talk about that.
Twyman remembered, and we're talking about Kaywood, that we actually went to a UK game one time. And he introduced me to Kaywood Ledford before the game down on Press Row, which was incredible. And the thing I've always remembered about that was what a class act Kaywood was, because
young broadcaster.
Kaywood is down there, and if you've done games, it gets busy, it gets hectic. You're trying to prepare, you're trying to get ready. It seems like everything hits you at once to come on the air, and you want to do a really good broadcast. But Kaywood was all class. He stood there and thanked us for coming, told us to enjoy the game.
Took time to make you feel important.
And you're just a couple of guys from Princeton enjoying the ball game and yelling at Kaywood, and here's the guy that actually came over and took a few minutes out of, again, busy pregame time.
Mm-hmm. Says a lot about him.
It does.
It says a lot about him as a person. And I think we all should remember that from time to time.
Miss those guys on the radio, and of course Jack Buck and Kaywood Ledford have both been gone for some time now. But and another guy we mentioned a few weeks ago, professional wrestling announcer Lance Russell.
Definitely.
And at the time he was still living. Unfortunately, about a week later after we had mentioned him, he passed away.
Mm-hmm.
But remember those guys?
Memphis Wrestling.
From Mid-South Coliseum.
Mid-South Coliseum, yes, indeed.
Those were the best. And you can go on YouTube and look up some of those old videos, and those things are fantastic. Just look up Lance Russell Wrestling and enjoy.
One I grew up with, speaking of that real quick, was Gordon Soley, too.
Oh,
you
yeah.
saw him. And I grew up watching that in Florida. And it was from the...
Oh, wow.
Let's see... I forget the Eddie Graham Sports Arena in Orlando, Florida. That's what they do. Eddie Graham Sports Arena. So, yeah, I mean, there's great regional announcers too.
Right.
That sometimes people they don't get to see because they don't live in a region. But I think the South has been really blessed with some really great ones.
Again, one more time though, all those guys had personality. They had their own personality. They had their own uniqueness to them. I think that's missing in a lot of guys that get on TV and call sports today. I want to see them go back to that and go back to that spontaneity when they make their calls. I don't want something that you thought about 2 weeks ago and wrote down and made a note of. I want to hear what you think right now.
We live in a scripted world, Todd.
Unfortunately. I think that's taken something away. But, again, I love those. And to me, just
good
kind
call
of
today, Todd. Good call.
a trip down memory lane on some of those because and I really just wanted to hear Kaywood again and Jack Buck again because I spent so much time listening to those guys. Again, when I was young, not every game was on TV. We get mad now if we have to search to find the game on TV, and back then you didn't have a choice. It was if you wanted to keep up with it, you turned on the radio, and that's how you followed along with your favorite team.
And that's awesome. We're about toward the end of the hour. I'm definitely not running you off, but you've got again a huge list there. let's talk. Of course, we're off this week. It's Friday. Tomorrow's Friday. We have an off night. Probably much needed rest for our Tigers.
There will be some football action at Tiger Stadium tomorrow night, though.
Let's talk about that.
Caldwell Gold versus Caldwell White.
Yes.
And you can throw the records out when those two teams get together.
That's exactly right. What time is that, by the way?
6 o'clock for the first game, the 3rd and 4th grade game. The 5th and 6th grade game will follow. So a lot of young Tigers and future Caldwell County High School Tigers will be on the field. So that's a good night to go out and watch the junior pro
those
teams.
Kids, yeah, and
it'll be a big deal for them.
Yeah.
They always get to play on that field, but they don't always get to walk out there on Friday night.
Friday night lights for them.
So that's a big deal.
Yeah.
But as far as the high school team, the Tigers with an off week, and it probably came at a pretty good time because they're trying to get a couple people healthy.
Get healed up.
But we've gone over the district playoffs before. Those things are finally coming into shape a little bit. Caldwell County has won the first district in Class 3A. Paducah Tillman is going to be the number 2 seed from our class. Big game this week has Trigg County at Union County. The winner of that game is going to be the number 3 seed. The loser is going to be the number 4.
Who do you think pulls that out?
I think Union County wins it, but I think it's a lot closer than maybe some people think.
Right.
I think that's going to be one of those. A late score is going to win it for somebody.
I didn't see your sports page, so I know you guys got your picks in there.
I think I had 27-25.
Okay, yeah.
Something like that. It was close.
I tend to agree with you about that.
Fort Campbell hosts Tillman in a district game this week, but that's not going to mean anything. Fort Campbell cannot get into the playoffs, even with a win over Tillman, because that would give them 1 win, and it would tie them with either Union or Trigg, whichever one loses this week. But Union and Trigg have head-to-head over Fort Campbell. And going the other way, yeah, I think Tillman's going to get that one.
Yeah.
And Tillman is in the 2 seed. Again, they could lose this week, and either Trigg or Union get a second win to equal them in the standings.
Wow.
But Tillman has head-to-head over whichever team comes out of there. So it's going to be Caldwell 1, Tillman 2, and then Union or Trigg 3 or 4. Now, in the 2nd district, which is paired up with this district for the regional playoffs, the football playoffs, Elizabethtown is the number 1 seed, and there's no big surprise there. Couple of big games over there this week to finish off those final standings. Edmondson County goes to LaRue County. The winner of that game will be the 2 seed. The loser will be the 3. And then at the bottom of the standings, Adair County goes to Hart County this week. The winner of that game gets in the playoffs as the number 4 seed. The loser misses the playoffs and finishes 5th in that district. The Adair Hart winner will come to Caldwell County in the first round of the playoffs in a couple of weeks.
We've seen that before.
And I don't think either one of those teams are as good this year as we've seen in the past. Adair County brought some pretty good teams in here.
They have.
Last year's game was 17-12. Yeah. Caldwell County won it in the second round of the playoffs. So Adair County had some really strong athletes, but this season's not looking good for either one of those teams. And again, the winner is looking at a long trip to Princeton for the first round of the playoffs, and I think Caldwell County would be a really heavy favorite in that game.
Yeah.
But that's about it. I think Caldwell will get one easy game, for lack of a better term, in the playoffs. By the second round, you're looking at maybe a LaRue County or a Paducah Tillman or somebody like that, depending on how it shakes out. It's going to get tough in a hurry. So going to have to win some games to maybe this year an even more difficult route to get back to the championship game of the region, which the Tigers have played in 5 straight years. But it seems like the last few years, even with that tough game against Adair County last year, you still felt like the Tigers were the better team. This year, the Tigers are going to have their hands full. Still probably will be favored to get to the regional finals, but it's going to be a tough second-round game just the way it's shaping up.
It will be, but the good thing is we've got them at home.
Oh, absolutely. It could play as many as 4 home playoff games if you keep winning all the way through the state semifinals. You just got to beat them, and, again, there's some good teams in the region. Elizabethtown is probably the best. You can make an argument for Caldwell County to be right there on their heels. If you look at their ratings and things, though, E-Town is the favorite, and, of course, we've been on the wrong end of a couple of games with Elizabethtown, so
we have.
If we could get the Panthers here and maybe pull off that upset,
it would be sweet.
Maybe get a little revenge for some of those past losses.
It would be sweet, and rest up, Tigers, and we will definitely. We got the big Mayfield game coming up on the 27th. That's next Friday night.
Again, sometimes you don't want to see that bye week coming, especially if you're on a roll and the Tigers have won 8 straight. But I think this actually came at a really good time.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. And a big game next Friday night, even though that it has nothing to do with any kind of playoff or postseason. It's just a big game, big rivalry.
Well, the Mayfield game has sort of become a game where Caldwell measures itself where it stands going into the playoffs. And the last few years, the Tigers have played pretty well in that game, even when they haven't won. Last season, we were up 2 touchdowns late in the first half, ended up giving up a score before halftime. Mayfield got the momentum, made some adjustments at halftime, and came back and won that game. 2 years ago, it was a late field goal that Mayfield kicked to beat Caldwell County.
Controversial as well.
It was at Tiger Stadium. Caldwell was right in that game. So, and then I think it was 4 years ago, the 48-41 game at Tiger Stadium, which is one of the best football games I've ever seen, especially if you like offense. I'm sure there's there are some defensive coordinators out there that are like, I don't want to play a 48-41 game, but it was outstanding and just a huge crowd for that game. And maybe next week you'll get that same atmosphere at Tiger Stadium when Mayfield comes here. I know the game will be on TV.
It's on Channel 6, and we'll stream it.
It'll be streaming. I would encourage everyone to try to get out to the stadium, though, and watch that game. And it's just so much fun, and you pick up some outside rooting interest in that game. You know, a lot of people will come and watch that game because you've got Caldwell County at 8-1, and Mayfield, I think they're about the same.
I think so.
Both teams ranked high in their respective classes, so I think that game generates some enthusiasm from those who maybe don't have a rooting interest in Caldwell County or Mayfield. They just want to go see a good football game, and that's a good one to go into before the playoffs start.
No doubt about it, and it ought to be an electrifying night, and we encourage you to come out and support our Tigers against Mayfield on the 27th.
But some fun games coming up. That one next week, and again, it's Championship Thursday.
Yeah, let's
volleyball in the district championship tonight. Girls soccer in the regional championship tonight. So it's a fun time.
It is a fun time, and we wish those ladies best of luck tonight as they go for those championships. Our volleyball team is at Hopkins Central, and our the regional championship is at Madisonville North. So if you can get out and hit both of those, it'd be great.
Volleyball at 6 and soccer at 7.
Yep.
So there is a chance to at least get to see part of both of those.
That's exactly right. Another great week. We've got an hour burn up and then some, and appreciate it so much. Do a fantastic job. Folks, go out and pick up the Times Leader. Pick it up on Wednesday. It'll get you prepared for all these sports that are going on during the week. And then, of course, after these championship games and matches tonight. And, it's a little bit empty this week because we have no football. But,
right.
I mean, it's not empty, but, I mean, there's just no football there. I mean, there's plenty of stuff in there, trust me. But encourage you to go pick up your edition of the Times Leader, the sports page, and check it out.
And if you can't go to the game and if you can't watch online, be sure and follow me on Twitter. It's at Todd Griffin 100, and some things make it on there sometimes that don't make it into the newspaper. So, pick it up, follow it, and keep abreast of all the updates.
That's right. Use those resources and use, of course, WPKY. We usually forward Todd's updates on our webpage as well. And then, of course, tonight we will have it on 103.3 FM, 1580 AM, and streaming online at WPKYonline.com. That is the second region soccer championship we'll have on for you tonight. We'll be on the air shortly before 7 o'clock.
It's been a busy week, but still going.
It just keeps on going. We're like the Energizer Bunny. So that's going to wrap up this edition of the Sideline Report, brought to you by the Times Leader. Todd, thank you. And
enjoyed it, and hope everyone enjoyed listening to the old calls, and we could play those all day.
Yeah, we could, and just stick around. We appreciate everyone tuning in. We have a good following. We're hearing good things about our show. We want you to continue to follow us here at the Sideline Report. And don't forget, of course, tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock is Tri-Cities Tiger Sports Talk with Gator and DT. They've been a little silent this week. I don't know who they have. Of course, we've had all our Hall of Famers on.
Surprise guest.
Yeah. And there's no football this week, so we'll see. We know we'll laugh when they get together. We always laugh and have a good time. So that'll be tomorrow, Tri-Cities Tiger Sports Talk with Gator and DT. And that's at 8 o'clock on Friday mornings. Todd, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a fantastic day. And, folks, head on out to Championship Thursday, volleyball at Hopkins Central at 6 o'clock, followed by we've got Lady Tiger Soccer against Henderson County, 7 o'clock from Madisonville, North Hopkins, going for a second region championship. It's 10:07. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Have a wonderful Thursday, and tune into our broadcast tonight on your hometown radio station, WPKY The Tiger.